Welcome, good morning, everyone. We are back live from the Italian pavilion at COP25 taking place in Madrid under the Chile presidency. My name is Giulia Braga from Connect for Climate, and today is a very special day here at COP25 because it's Young and Future Generations Day. Very special day, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Jayathma Wickramanayake. Jayathma is the United Nations Secretary General Envoy on Youth. Thank you, Jayathma, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I would like to start by asking you a little bit. We were last together in New York for the UN Youth Climate Action Summit in September. What has happened since then, and how is the UN Youth Envoy Office continuing the important work you started in New York last September?
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, thank you for being there at the Youth Climate Summit. It was such an important moment at the UN headquarters where we gathered for the first time in the history of the UN, the largest gathering of young people on climate change and climate issues. And the most important part of more than 1,000 young people coming to New York across different parts of the world was not only that they got to connect their different climate initiatives and movements with each other, but they really got to talk to the policymakers. We switched roles in September. We got young people to be the keynote speakers and the politicians to be the keynote listeners. And we really got a very constructive platform where young people could express themselves. And a lot of good things came out of it. So we don't want to lose the momentum, the energy, and the really good ideas that accumulated in September in New York through the Youth Climate Action Summit. So we are doing a number of initiatives to follow up on these different initiatives that were launched at the Youth Climate Summit. For an example, later today at the Intergenerational Inquiry, I will be launching a new platform called Reach Not Preach. In the Youth Climate Reach Not Preach. So
Wonderful.
We should reach not preach climate action. In the Youth Climate Action Summit, a lot of young people told us that even though they are really passionate about climate action and they do have fantastic ideas to implement to achieve adaptation, mitigation, they often lack the tools, the resources, the knowledge, the networks, or sometimes even financial support and opportunities to implement these great initiatives. So Reach Not Preach is a platform that brings different actors in the climate movement together, from the students who are protesting on the streets to connect initiatives like Connect for Climate,
Absolutely.
to institutions like UNFCCC, to civil society organizations like Civicus, who have developed so many toolkits and guidances and resource pools and are creating opportunities for young people to be a part of this important conversation. So please feel free to check it out. Please be a part of the Reach Not Preach community. I believe that we can only achieve the ambition that we need if we work together, not in silos. So Reach Not Preach will be a platform for us to come together as one.
And is this platform or any other initiatives you're championing providing a mechanism for young activists and young people to work with policymakers in a more active and engaged way? Because I think that's very important as well.
Exactly. One of the key things, there were multiple commitments made at the Youth Climate Summit, both by youth organizations, young people, civil society organizations, and member states. And one of the key commitments or initiatives that was launched was a pledge called Kwangesh, launched by Ireland and Marshall Island. Currently, about 53 governments have signed up for the Kwangesh pledge. And basically, this is a pledge that builds up on the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement says that young people, future generations, have to be involved in making decisions about the future of our planet. And Kwangesh tries to hold governments accountable to actually implementing that, to make sure that when member states formulate their NDCs or climate policies and programs and initiatives at the country level, that they actually engage and consult and get young people to participate in the formulation, implementation and monitoring of those initiatives. So one of the big task for us next year would really be holding the governments who signed up to the pledge accountable so that they actually implement what is agreed in the Paris Agreement. And we already see some really good examples. For an example, Italy became the first country to make climate education mandatory in schools. The Minister of Climate and Environment in Denmark has appointed a youth advisory panel that he gets advice from in working on climate policy in Denmark.
Wonderful.
So we can already see governments responding to the big demands that young people have been putting on the table in terms of climate action. But there's so much more that we need to do in order to get all member states involved in this process.
And time is of the essence, right? So this is why the theme of COP25 is time for action, because now is the time. We can't wait no longer. Going back to, we're here at the Italian Pavilion, and as you said, Italy was the first country to announce climate education becoming a part of all schools' curricula. So that's very important, I think. Italy is also working in partnership with the UK government for COP26. And we know that COP26 is going to be very important, not just for the NDCs, but also for ACE, yes. Action for Climate Empowerment, which is very much linked and is the focus of Article 6. What do you think we will see, or what we should see as part of the new ACE plan?
So first of all, I think one of the key gaps that we see today is that even though in the program of action we do have identified climate education, for an example, among many other things like training and capacity building and advocacy, as a key priority, only a very small number of governments actually implement it either formally or informally. In some countries it's integrated into the formal curriculum at schools. In some countries it's done through informal and non-formal ways, but still we don't see enough progress in terms of actually integrating climate education into national policies. So I think that the COP26 co-organized by the government of Italy and the government of UK is going to be a key turning point to get those commitments actually instilled into the policies at the national level. And I think the pre-COP that Italy is hosting is going to be an opportune moment for this, primarily because the Italian government at the Youth Climate Summit made a commitment that the pre-COP will be led by youth, and that there will be a youth stimulation of the COP to see if we let young people occupy the seats of the decision makers today, what kind of ambition can we reach? And I think that will be an opportune moment, as we will also be reviewing the ACE program of action to really identify the gaps, but also bring the educational community together to say that empowerment for climate action has to be done through both formal and informal ways, but it has to be integrated in policy, either it is climate policy or educational policy, and it has to be budgeted. That national governments, national budgets of ministries need to reflect these key important issues for young people.
Thank you so much. Connect for Climate is really about empowering young people using a lot the creative arts, film, music, sports as a way to make people connect and encourage action. What do you think is the role of the creative industries in encouraging a change in behavior? That is something that all of us could do.
I think, for an example, the impact that media can have is, I think it goes beyond any sort of advocacy that we can have through a workshop or a training, because this is media and the mainstream performance arts reach millions of people at one time. So integrating the messages of sustainability, about living eco-friendly lives, about sustainable consumption, can really go a long way if it's supported by media and through arts and culture. But unfortunately, what we see today is a lot of the focus on actually promoting consumerism and promoting excessive consumption, because we are driven by short-term goals of profit making, not really by putting people and planet at the front and center and thinking long-term, thinking sustainably about the future of the planet. I think we are also to be blamed of to some extent, particularly one of the criticisms that I try to bring within the United Nations is that we work very much in our silos. Our climate work is done by UNFCCC, and our gender work is done by UN Women, and our educational work is done by UNESCO. But really these issues come at young people's lives all at the same time. It's not like today climate change and tomorrow I'm affected by gender equality and next week I will be affected by education, right? So our programmatic initiatives and our policies has encompassing in a holistic manner all of these different challenges, and I think culture can really play a role in being that thread that really connects these different pieces of the and we are yet to bring that artistic community into this conversation and really embed that in the day-to-day work. And the other part of it is Julia, and I saw today at the opening of the Youth Intergenerational Day, one of the young people, when he was talking about his indigenous community and the different challenges that they have been going through in Canada, he became very emotional. But then he was a powerful moment where sometimes our feelings and emotions, how young people use arts and culture across. And I think given we live in that we have increasing cases of mental health issues among excessive impacts of climate change like droughts or floods or natural disasters badly. I think to spreading awareness, arts and culture and performance mediums can also be used as a tool of healing people who are fortunately experiencing the impacts of climate change but had very little to
Last question, Jayathma. Straight on camera to all of our audience and especially now.
First of all, millions of young people have been driving the climate conversation last year, and we can the impact that you have. More and more governments are being conscious about the decisions that they are making about the environment, about climate, and we see more and more non-youth also joining the movement. So definitely change for the entire movement of people. So I would doing what you are doing, but also who are not already engaged in these conversations, reach out to your peers and strengthen these movements. Support advocacy and messages of young people who live in countries that sometimes is not possible to protest. There are countries where it's illegal to protest, or it's not conducive or safe to protest and demand action. So join in solidarity with those young effective strategic communications to send their messages also to across to other audiences and let's keep as the Secretary General said, because individual change and that we are looking achieve, keeping the rise of temperatures by 1.5 degrees Celsius can only be achieved through changes of policies, changes of taxes, changes of subsidizing fossil fuel, and changes of a massive macroeconomic economic structures. So let's keep the pressure on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jayathma. We will discuss youth integration in the decision-making processes in more details on December the 10th. If you are here in Madrid, please join us at the Italian Pavilion for a side event with the Italian Minister of Environment, Sergio Costa, and the Italian Minister of Education, Lorenzo Fioramonti, joined by youth that will engage in a conversation. So it's a very great opportunity to make your voices heard and join the conversation. Continue to follow us with hashtag COP25 Time for Action and C4C Live. And thank you so much to the UN Envoy on Youth for joining us here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.